I think we're good to start, Liz.
Okay, well, thank you for joining. And today I'm just going to let Jack get on with it and introduce Unibuddy to you and give you a demo as well. So Jack, over to you.
Cheers. Thank you, Liz. And thanks for coordinating this session. So today's webinar is called The Power of the Student Voice, Personalizing Your Digital Student Experience. And just before we kick off, just to quickly run you through the agenda for today. To start, I'm just going to spend some time outlining the role of peer-to-peer recruitments and peer-to-peer interactions in informing and influencing student decision-making. I'll then spend a bit of time talking through how Unibuddy is helping universities integrate peer-to-peer recruitment into their overall marketing strategies. And this will include a brief demonstration of the platform. And to wrap up, I'll be providing a quick overview of how Unibuddy and peer-to-peer support generally has impacted the key stages of the recruitment process and the recruitment cycle for our partners. And I'll also save some time at the end of the session to field any questions that we have from the audience. So quick introduction to myself. My name's Jack Craig, and I'm a partnerships manager at Unibuddy. I've been at the company for just under 2 years, and my goal is sort of focused, and my role is focused on business development. So building new relationships with universities, predominantly across Europe, but also working with universities in the UK and North America as well. And prior to Unibuddy, my background was in higher education. So I spent about 10 years working at UK universities in a variety of roles, including sort of recruitment, admissions, but also in sort of student services and experiential learning as well. And at Unibuddy, kind of my goal and the core goal of the company is focused on helping prospective students choose the right course, the right university, and the right study destination for them. But we also help universities to address some common challenges that are felt by recruitment, admissions, and marketing teams in general. And I've just kind of outlined and summarized some of these on this slide. So at Unibuddy, what we're seeing increasingly is that prospective students' decisions are heavily influenced by social proof, by the experiences and the stories of current students and alumni. And what we do is help universities sort of accommodate and meet this desire that prospective students have to get direct feedback from these peer groups. Because what we know and what we've seen is that when students can't travel to open days or meet ambassadors or staff at recruitment fairs or at open days, they'll seek this feedback online, predominantly through social media and peer review sites. And while social media can be a great source of student-led content and information, universities don't necessarily have, a high level of visibility of these conversations. They can't see necessarily, whether these conversations and interactions prospective students are having online are constructive, whether they're even getting a response at all, if reaching out to prospectives, to current students on LinkedIn or via Instagram. And also, they can't see, whether they're at who's reaching out to them. They can't identify or generate leads easily through these channels. So with Unibuddy, what we're doing is helping to facilitate these conversations in a secure environment so that universities can use these conversations to generate leads, but also critically provide personalized support and guidance to hundreds of or thousands of existing leads and applicants without the needs for interventions from sort of recruitment or admissions teams. Because not only are we responding to this sort of trend of sort of needing social proof when making a big decision in higher education, but also this increased need for sort of personalized supports, and it can be really hard to deliver that at scale. So on this slide, I just wanted to share some data that supports this point that prospective students do expect to be able to engage with current students when researching and deciding where to study their degree. According to QS, 74% of international students, excuse me, have questions that they want to address directly to current students. In the same survey, 49% of international applicants said they would feel less worried about studying abroad if they could direct questions to current international students. Um, as well as these sort of expectations of students shifting, so have their behaviors. So over the past 18 months, Generation Z are now spending 60% longer on social media and messaging services. So what these statistics point to is that universities should not only be ensuring that these peer-to-peer conversations are taking place and that they're really, really kind of easy and accessible for your prospective students, but that they should be taking place on the channels that they're using the most and that they're most comfortable on. So that's a bit of context, and that's kind of, giving you some sort of rationale as to why we exist and the problem we're solving. As a company, we're actually, over 5 years old. We were founded based on the experiences of our CEO and founder, Diego Finares, who, as an international student himself, researching where to study his master's in finance, found that he was really heavily influenced by the conversations and the feedback he was getting from his peers. So, through former undergraduate classmates who was currently studying their masters, through his colleagues who had recently graduated, through family members who had sort of traveled internationally to undertake their master's degree. And it was these conversations that really informed and drove his decision making and led him to study his master's in finance at Imperial College. But based on this experience, he felt a few things. One, not everyone was lucky as him. Not everyone had this kind of extensive network across the US and the UK and Europe, where they could reach out to different, students and alumni at these different institutions. Two, he felt he was restricted to kind of the big name institutions where he had existing connections, where they had really extensive alumni networks. And three, he felt this process should be much easier. Really, the sort of source of truth for a university when you're researching them is their homepage. And when you're going on a homepage and you're reading about admissions process, course content, fees, it should be just as easy to reach out and direct questions to current students studying the course you're interested in, or from your country of origin if you have questions that are more cultural in nature. And what we've created is a platform that sits within the university homepage, and enables prospective students to reach out directly to current students and or alumni to ask these really important and influential questions. And in a second, I'll kind of show you what that looks like. But what we're seeing with our partners is that by responding to the sort of trends I spoke about earlier, and enabling prospective students to easily connect to their student advocates, we're seeing really some profound impacts. We're enabling them to sort of reach new audiences and generate leads from these regions. We're allowing them to sort of provide a prompt and personalized service to large groups of prospective students at scale. We see a pronounced increase in the conversion of leads to application and the conversion of applicants to enrollment. And this is also a tool, as you'll see in a moment, that allows you to develop a much better understanding of the target markets that you're working in. And what we're seeing with Unibuddy is that if you can encourage impactful peer-to-peer conversations at each stage of the recruitment process, you can have a really profound impact. And just to kind of talk you through how the product helps you do that, Unibuddy not only sits within the university homepage, but it also integrates with sort of aggregators and discover platforms like educations.com or Univer or UCAS. And this allows our partners to reach a new audience earlier in the decision-making process by showcasing their sort of diverse student community and their stories. We increase the conversion of homepage traffic. So what we're seeing is that students who may not be inclined to kind of fill out a sort of standard form or reach out to a staff member via email will engage in conversations with student advocates and student ambassadors. And we support the conversion of new and existing leads to the point of application and enrollment by enabling universities to sort of target these leads with sort of personalized peer-to-peer support at the key decision points in the recruitment process. And what we're seeing is that by doing this, you will have a sort of profound impact at these various stages in the recruitment process. So just to run you through the stats on this slide, we see on some of our partners that students are as up to 5 times as likely to kind of input their details and start a conversation via Unibuddy than they are compared to more traditional calls to action, such as ordering a prospectus. At Imperial College, we saw that 47% of Unibuddy users, so those who chatted on the platform, went on to submit an application. At Royal Holloway, we saw that 88% of offer holders who chatted on the platform accepted their offer. And at Erasmus School of Economics in the Netherlands, we saw a 30% enrollment boost. And what I mean by that is that students who engaged with an ambassador on Unibuddy were 30% more likely to enroll compared to their institutional average for leads generated via other channels. And all of these stats are kind of driven by this key stat here. 89% of prospective students felt more confident about their choice of university and university fit as a consequence of the conversations they're having on Unibuddy, because they have that opportunity to get that social proof and get that feedback from a real student on our platform. So that there is just a bit of an overview of our impact and kind of how the platform works. But now I just wanted to show you guys the platform itself. So what you can see here, this sort of platform demo is going to broadly fall into 2 parts. Firstly, just going to show you some examples of the platform and how it's being promoted on other university homepages, how prospects find and engage with the platform, and so on. And then for the second part of the platform demo, I'm going to show you this from the university perspective. So how do you manage your ambassadors and sort of track their activity? How do you access your prospect data? How do you coordinate online events through the platform? So in this first example, you can see here, this is University of Leicester, one of our UK partners. And I like to show this example because it's a really clear call to action on a high traffic area of the homepage. For Unibuddy to be effective, it's all about promoting this on areas on your homepage where students are going to see it. So you can see here, they have their traditional calls to action: order a prospectus, book a place at an open day, COVID information, chat to a student. Another example here with a sort of a smaller institution, but who do see a really, really powerful impact from the platform. So this is Code University of Applied Sciences in Germany. They have about 250 students enrolled, but on their main landing page, again, using just a standard link, they have information about course content, chat to a student, virtual demo day. And they're generating a really high level of leads just by having this on high traffic areas on their homepage. As well as using your own links and calls to action, Unibuddy can also provide you with tools that you can embed on your homepage. So here we have European University of Cyprus, and on their main landing page, they've embedded this carousel, which is provided to you by Unibuddy. And what it does, it just sort of takes up a single line on the homepage. Really easy to embed, but it's just an eye-catching way for prospective students to sort of cycle through some high-level profiles of your student ambassadors and quickly start a conversation with them. As well as the kind of carousel, you can use pop cards. So these are not for everyone, but as a way of kind of generating leads and sort of driving traffic to the platform are incredibly effective. So we can see here Nine Road Business School, one of our Dutch partners. On this kind of page here, this is an individual course page. So their Masters in Management course, alongside information about events and course content and some video content, they have this really eye-catching pop-up, which will have someone studying that course that they can click and start a conversation with. As well as having a pop card for student ambassadors, we have this chat bubble, which you can also embed staff. So Unibuddy does give you the option, alongside having students and alumni ambassadors, it gives you the opportunity to have staff on there as well. And one of the reasons why our partners may choose to do that is that this gives you a way of kind of really easily diverting questions around admissions process or fees or visas to the appropriate staff member. And just a kind of final example of just a nice way of kind of promoting this on different locations on your homepage. So here on an individual course page, Royal Holloway, one of our London-based partners, they have the typical stuff, course contents, assessment, entry requirements, fees and funding, but also really easily and really accessible. Someone researching this course can click through and start a conversation with one of the current cohorts studying law. And what all of this is doing is driving traffic to a main platform, which sits within your homepage, which I'll show you in a moment. But just one sort of final aspect I wanted to draw attention to, I mentioned it during the sort of slide deck, is this opportunity you have to embed Unibuddy on sort of third-party web pages. So we are building a kind of network of partners who are kind of working in the online student recruitment space. One really good example is educations.com. And what our mutual partners have is the opportunity to embed their ambassadors on the main landing page. So, with 7 million kind of visitors to educations.com each year, this is a great opportunity to showcase your student ambassadors to a new audience. So as you can see here on their main landing page, we have a version of the Unibuddy platform, which enables prospective students to filter by location. So I'm looking for all ambassadors based in Spain or Germany, or by course. And the real benefit of this is you're not relying on people to kind of find your ambassadors via social media or via your homepage, but much earlier on in their decision-making process, when they're first researching what course or what country to study the degree in. These Discover platforms allow them to start having these meaningful, really impactful conversations with your student ambassadors. So this would be embedded on the main landing page, but also your kind of institution page as well. But again, what this is doing is kind of driving traffic to sort of individual ambassador profiles or to the main Unibuddy platform profile. And what you can see here is I'm going to show you one of our Canadian examples here. So this is Western in Canada. And what our partners are required to do is to just sort of build a simple landing page. And that'll have a bit of an introduction to the purpose of the platform, set expectations around response times. And then what your prospective students can do is filter the ambassadors. So do I want to talk to an undergraduate or a postgraduate or an alumni ambassador? Do I want to speak to someone from a specific course, or do I want to speak to someone from a specific country if my questions are more culturally oriented? And then what they can begin to do using these filters is find someone maybe from their region and from the course they're interested in, who's going to be really well placed to answer and address their specific questions and concerns. As you can see here, this is a bit like a social media profile. Obviously, your ambassadors have a degree of anonymity. They have a photo and first name only, but they can choose not to upload a photo or use a different first name if they're concerned about privacy. But typically it would be a real photo and it would be their real first name. And you can see here some more information about where they're from in their home country, what languages they speak, the courses they're studying, the sort of societies they're a part of, and a bit of biographical information about, how they're enjoying the experience at Western and maybe why they chose to study there. But this is great because people will have different questions. As I said, coming from a business school background myself, I know that many sort of incoming students had really specific questions about the clubs or certain treks, and they'd want to speak to someone who's part of that club, or they may have very specific questions about sort of career provision. You can use these bios to add that color and make sure that one, you're showcasing your student and alumni community really effectively, but two, your prospective students, without the need for any staff intervention, can find an ambassador who's going to do a really great job of answering their questions. So in this case here, we found the student. We'll click chat with Anthony. And the first time one of your prospects uses the platform, they'll be asked to create an account. And kind of what that looks like would be, I'm not going to kind of bother Anthony, who's a real student, but what would happen is the first time they do that, they'd be asked to kind of put their name and email as a bare minimum and create a password. And then what would happen is they'd be asked to, you can customize this. So typically there'd be a second sign-in page where you're asking some pertinent questions. Typically, okay, what country is the prospect from? What course are they interested in? And maybe typically what intake are they applying for? But maybe 3 or 4 data points that are going to be really useful to your recruitment team to then target this lead after they've had a conversation and nurtured them with personalized or tailored content. And then, hey, you'll be going into the conversation with this student here. Hi, we've got this dummy account here. So have you already applied? You can customize this to ask whether they're pre or post application. Let's say they're pre-application. And this, again, that pop-up just helps you identify where that student is in the recruitment process. And what will happen is then you'll send a question, you'll send that to them, and the ambassador will get a notification on their phone immediately. So what this means is that your ambassadors are not required to check a mailbox to see if they're getting messages, but they're getting push notifications via an app on their phone. Similarly, your prospect will get this pop-up. So firstly, they're notified that they'll get a response within 24 hours. That takes a bit of pressure off your ambassadors. The expectation is they don't have to drop everything and start responding straight away. They may be in class, they may be working an internship, but within 24 hours, they'll be sending a personalized response. But also, your prospect can then link this to their WhatsApp, text, or email. And again, it's the same benefit. No, the prospect sends a message, they may, move on, start doing something else, but within a couple of hours, they'll be getting a response. They'll be getting notified on their phone via text, WhatsApp. They click on the message and it takes them directly back into the chat. And what this means is that your prospective students are very quickly being engaged by a sort of text-based conversation, very similar to WhatsApp, in a format they're familiar with, but having a personalized, real conversation with one of your student ambassadors. So no sort of filling out a form, forgetting about it, getting a templated response back from a member of staff. No, this is a real conversation with a real ambassador, typically within a couple of hours. So in terms of the prospect facing aspect of the platform, that's kind of the highlights. What I'm going to show you now is how you manage this. So our university partners manage all of their kind of Unibuddy interactions through a dashboard, which you can see here. And the dashboard serves a few purposes. One of this is to kind of give you access to high-level analytics. You can see how many people are visiting the platform, signing up, and starting conversations. You can see what countries these prospects are coming from, and at a high level, what courses they're asking about. This also gives you a really comprehensive way of kind of managing your ambassadors. So you can see here, you can see all of your ambassadors. You can see how long they're spending on the platform each week or each month, but also how long they're taking typically to respond. And this is really important to have this transparency. However you sort of choose to incentivize and motivate your ambassadors, it's really good to know how long they're spending on the platform. To give you a kind of ballpark figure, ambassadors would spend between an hour and 2 hours a month answering questions and chatting on the platform. So 30 minutes a week, it's not a huge time commitment, but if you're paying them an hourly rate, it is really good to know with some degree of precision how much time they're spending working on this. Alternatively, many of our partners do not incentivize ambassadors financially, but rather have a series of softer incentives. And this kind of ranges from giving them some universities, hoodie and t-shirts or university swag that always goes down really well. Um, Organizing sort of social events every semester, so maybe once a semester, inviting all of your ambassadors together for a meal or some drinks, and a senior member of staff kind of thanking them for their work. Sort of certification at the end of their sort of tenure as an ambassador, LinkedIn accommodations, basically soft incentives that are going to kind of make them feel rewarded and continue to motivate them, can be really effective, even more so than financial incentives sometimes. But I digress. So as well as kind of seeing the amount of time that ambassadors are spending on the platform, you can actually be more granular than that. So all of your ambassadors will be listed within the dashboard, and you can click into them and see their conversation history. And the reason we give universities the power to do this is not to kind of enable spying or sort of a big brother type behavior. This is really about peace of mind and security. So especially when you're launching a new ambassador program or you're recruiting new ambassadors, many universities just want to know that their ambassadors are being accurate and professional in the way that they're representing the school. And it's up to you how much you're checking this, but you do have the option to kind of dig into those conversations and make sure that the kind of high standards you expect are being met by your ambassadors. Similarly, you can see any unanswered inquiries. So any sort of messages that haven't received a response will be flagged on the dashboard. And this is, again, really, really important. You want to know that your prospects who are reaching out to your ambassadors are not only receiving accurate responses, but they're receiving prompt responses. So anything that goes beyond 24 hours, it'll be flagged on the dashboard. Your ambassadors will also receive notifications from us automatically, but you can go in, you can message the prospects, you can actually, message the ambassadors to see if they're okay, or prompt them to answer the question. Or if the conversation's run its natural course, you can mark it as resolved. So you have this complete oversight of the conversations, and you have that sort of peace of mind that prospective students are getting a good, prompt, personalized service. The dashboard is also the tool you use to manage your ambassadors. So all of your ambassadors are saved within this dashboard. As you can see here, this has got all of their profile information, so their sort of name, their email, the kind of course, and so on. And this is used by our partners as a messaging tool. So you can kind of message individual or groups of ambassadors. And a sort of common use case for this may be if you have an upcoming open day or online event. You could send a message to all of your ambassadors saying, we have this event on this date. We need some volunteers. Could people get in touch if they're free? And that message will be broadcast to all of their mobile phones. So a really good way of sort of managing and keeping in contact with your ambassadors. Also, ambassadors have lives. They may be traveling, or they may, have a busy exam period coming up. And at any time, they can be sort of deactivated. The ambassador would stay within the dashboard, but can then be reactivated again, and they'd reappear on the public-facing platform. All of your prospect data comes through to the dashboard. So you can see here the name, the email, the sort of expected start date, any of the data points really that you're capturing during that sign-up flow will come through to the dashboard. And then this data, it can be exported to a CSV file so that you can then kind of use that data and roll it into your kind of current means for sort of tracking and monitoring leads. Or this can be connected directly to your CRM system, which means that data is being pushed through automatically to your CRM. The platform has a kind of moderation function to it. So safeguarding is incredibly important to Unibuddy. because that people do need to register, sign up, and register with a genuine email address, that does filter out an enormous amount of inappropriate content. Only 0.03% of messages or conversations are flagged as inappropriate, but where that does happen, your ambassadors can immediately block any inappropriate messages. So that would mean that person sending the message is blocked from the platform. That would come through to the dashboard, and as an administrator, you can see the message. So you can unblock the prospect if it was a misunderstanding. You can, maintain and approve that block, and you can reach out to the ambassador to see if they're okay. Also, certain sort of keywords, inappropriate words, are automatically starred as well. So, certain keywords that I won't mention will automatically be starred so the prospect can't see them. One thing I haven't mentioned is that Unibuddy has a social media sort of blog function. So just to sort of jump onto another example here, this is King's College London. Within the main platform itself, so in the same platform as the sort of student chat, is a blog function. And here, your ambassadors can kind of write and upload their own content, be it video logs, written blogs, photos. And typically this is going to be sort of content around, studying abroad for a year in America as a King's student is a nice example. Writing an effective personal statement for the admissions process. Studying abroad right at King's, top tips for preparing for your university experience. Stuff that's going to be really tailored and of interest to your potential students. And then you can kind of customize these tags so that your prospects can easily find it. But in terms of how that process works, your ambassador can just upload that content via their app. That will come through to the dashboard here. And then before it's published, you would have full view of that. So you could click into the content itself. If you're kind of want it to have any edits, you can kind of work with the ambassador on that before it's published to a wider audience. We also see some of our partners kind of taking out content and repurposing it for their kind of more marketing shiny blog, more polished content elsewhere in other channels. So this is just a great source of student-led content, be it being shared via Unibuddy or other channels that you like to disseminate this content. And then another tool which is super helpful, and I mentioned it earlier, about this isn't just a way for engaging with your prospective students. This is also a great way of kind of learning more about them. So we have a tool called Conversation Insights. And what this does is every conversation that takes place on the platform will be labeled with a topic or topics. So if the conversation was about teaching quality or accommodation or financial aid, admissions process, whatever it may be, that will be labeled automatically with an algorithm that detects that and labels the conversation. And then you can see at a high level, okay, we're getting more conversations about accommodation or teaching quality or so on. But then that can be segmented by different regions. So where you're beginning to sort of target new regions, you can begin to kind of see, okay, what's the different trends in different markets? What markets are asking more about accommodation? Should we be releasing more information and more content to this market because we're getting more questions on this area? So it's a source of sort of a live source of marketing intelligence, which you can be broken down by region or even course. And you'll begin to notice some really interesting trends about different course profiles or different regions, which you can then use to tailor the content and the materials you're sharing with them. Kind of final major feature I wanted to kind of show with you is the live events feature. So Unibuddy has an inbuilt video streaming platform. And a huge benefit of this is one, it's been kind of developed and customized for higher education usage specifically. Two, the sign up and the flow of sign up is exactly the same as the chat. So someone who's kind of registered for an event via Unibuddy using the same account can chat to your ambassadors using that same login and vice versa. But also it's incredibly easy to use. So just in terms of, just to give you a quick sort of talk through of how that works, you'd click create live event, give the event a title. So in this case, let's say we're running an alumni panel. We're getting, 3 or 4 alumni from a particular course to talk about their experiences on the program, but also, how the university, or let's say as a business school, has helped them kind of find employment and the role they're in now. By giving the name a title, you automatically generate a URL, and then you can customize the event. So add an agenda, set a start and end date, and so on. And then you click save. And then all of your live events are sort of saved within this dashboard. So anytime you can go in and copy that URL. That URL can then be shared via your homepage, via your kind of email campaigns, via social media. And it's through that URL that your prospects would click through, register, and then through that URL, they would attend the event. You can also clone events and edit them at any time. I mean, the cloning event is useful because many universities will just have regular information sessions that they run on a monthly basis. So you can create one information session, clone it multiple times, and customize according to date and so on. So really easy to use. And then the event itself, this is just to show you the format of the event. This is a white labeled version, but this would be customized to your kind of your brand and your logo and so on. But the sort of format of the event is that you have a kind of a live stream here, and this could be up to 4 people sort of presenting simultaneously in a sort of panel type format. It could be one person presenting and sharing their screen. It could be, we have universities kind of giving their students a camera and doing a kind of a live campus tour. It's super flexible in terms of how you use it. So you have your kind of main channel here, you have a kind of agenda here, and have a main chat feed. The streaming window can be maximized to full screen as well. But the big benefit of this, as you can see here, is that there's not just one feed. You customize kind of breakout feeds and channels. You can also enable direct messaging. And the kind of use case I give for this is if you're running an open day style event via Zoom, for example, is, you'll have the streaming and then you'll have one main feed. But what will happen if we take the example of a faculty member giving a taster lecture or doing a Q&A with potential students is you'll have 80 to 90% of the guests at the event asking really relevant questions, and they're being picked up by the faculty. But you'll also have people going, hey, I submitted an application 2 weeks ago. When am I going to get an update? Or how do I apply for a scholarship? Or can you give me any advice on finding accommodation? Stuff that your faculty member can't and won't want to answer. By using these breakout channels, you can have these kind of common topics and themes that are slightly more niche or admin based, and people can go out into those breakout channels and have those specific conversations with staff or with your ambassadors or with each other for accommodation. If you're running this for admits, could be a great channel for kind of people meeting each other, like and finding potential sort of flat and housemates. And also some of these conversations aren't going to be, fit for public consumption. If we take the admissions example and someone has a question about their specific application, they could have a private conversation during the event with a member of admissions staff, and they could have that conversation and get some more information about the progress of that application. So as you can see, there's a lot of the sort of core functionality of sort of standard webinar or streaming software, but we've kind of customized this for higher education usage. Another really nice thing we're seeing with Unibuddy Live is that people register for an online event or an online open day. They'll kind of talk to an ambassador during the event and have a really good connection with them. Then after that event, they're coming back to the main Unibuddy platform and continuing that conversation. They're kind of asking questions that they didn't ask during the event, have come back to them 2 to 3 weeks later. Or if they've built a really strong connection during one of these events with an ambassador, they're coming back to them and sort of continuing that relationship. So with online events, one of the advantages is that you're not restricted to a certain time or date. And if you miss that date, you're not going to have the opportunity to talk to a student from your course again. If you miss the event, you can access the kind of content afterwards. You can access recorded content. You can still come and have live, real conversations with current students. And that can be really powerful and kind of complements the flexibility that prospective students expect and often need at the moment. So that's it for kind of live events. Just to kind of quick point on implementation before I kind of open up for questions. In terms of how the platform is implemented, it's from a technical perspective, pretty straightforward. What we do is we build a platform according to your specifications. So we take your kind of brand colors, your logo, your course list, and build the platform accordingly. You would then have a kind of a training session. You would have a dedicated account manager who kind of runs that training. And then after that, you have access to this dashboard. And then in this dashboard, you have a line of code, which is then copied and pasted onto a holding page built by your web team. And that's it from the technical implementation. Realistically, the trickier side is kind of finding and recruiting your student ambassadors. We do support with that, and we do deliver sort of online training for them, but you do need to take the time to kind of find and identify the right ambassadors for the program. And then after that, and they've been invited and they've created their profiles, you're live. And that process takes about 2 to 3 weeks. So that's really it for the platform. In terms of kind of rounding, I'm just going to sort of say, about to open up for questions in a moment. But to kind of give you some context, I spoke about some of the impact earlier. So again, for universities, this is, a great way of generating leads and sort of converting students. But I think also this is just a really good way of recruiting the right students who have a truly authentic understanding of your institution, and kind of are choosing you for the right reasons because they really have understood the offering that you provide, the ethos of your institution, and they're going to be more likely to be happy when they get there. And I think for me, that's the really powerful thing about Unibuddy. So that's it for the platform demo. And really now we've got 15 minutes. So I just wanted to see if any of the audience had any questions about the platform, about Unibuddy, or anything I've shown you today. Great. Well, in that case, I am going to kind of wrap up now. In terms of if after this session you do kind of have any burning questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is jack@unibuddy.com. Also, Liz, who is on the call, please feel free to reach out to her if you do want to kind of learn more about Unibuddy and how the platform works. But otherwise, that's it for me, and that's it for Liz. I hope you found this session informative, and thank you for coming.
Thanks, Jack. Bye.